Hey everyone, I hope you are well. So in this video tutorial, I am going to go over drawing the figure, and it's more so just building on gesture, added in some cylinders in our cubes, getting more of a structure, that construction, that linear structure in. So the first thing that I definitely want to do is just talk a little bit about what stage we are in our drawing process. So we're in a stage of the very beginnings. So we've dealt with gestures. Now we're moving into construction, linear structure, that structure of the figure. Right after that, then we'll move into the anatomy, and then after anatomy is rendering. So rendering is always last. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get started. That way this video isn't longer than what it actually should be. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to at least establish a top and a bottom, and I'm going to establish it because I don't want to go outside of my frame. So I'm just gonna get in a top and a bottom. So once we have established that, and these are just little lines that are here that just keep me in check, that way your figure don't start growing out of control. You don't want that at all. So in my process and how I'm going to do this, I am going to rely on my eyes. I'm not going to utilize any proportion methods of head height methods. I'm just going to trust what I'm seeing and how I navigate through the body just using landmarks. So we want to utilize those three body masses. We want to use the landmarks. We want to think of connections, how things connect together while we're using very simple geometric forms. And that's what we're looking for. So I'm going to time myself. I'm really just want to give myself 40 minutes, possibly, maybe more or less. 40 minutes, that's what I'm going for this drawing. I am using a Prismacolor erase pencil. I love these pencils because of the fact that they just glide so smoothly on paper. I love it. So I'm going to start my timer. If you hear my timer go off, it's just that's telling me that my 20 minutes is up, and then I may restart it. Alright, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to start with a sphere for the cranium. So if I'm starting really light, because normally you want to build, I'll try and get a little bit darker for you guys as the drawing comes into play. So now that I kind of got the head in, very gestured, that's what I'm going for. Also, I want to get the neck. I want to find a pit. So a good way to find the pit is drawing out that sternomastoid. That's that beautiful muscle that comes from our ear and it connects to our clavicles. That's going to give you the pit of your neck. So once I find that, now it's going to give me a center line. She has a pelvic thrust that's happening. So I want to curve my center line as much as possible for right now. So I can keep it very gestured. It'll probably change just a bit, but that's what I'm going to go for. So now I want to get my rib cage in. I'm thinking of an egg shape for right now. I also want to think of, from that pit, what directions my shoulders are in. What is the tilt of the shoulders? So she's at like a very angled shoulders. And I might be exaggerating it a lot more than what I should, but I'm okay with that. Alright, so now that we have that in, I also kind of just want to get, I don't want to lose my gesture too much, but I do want to get an idea for what direction that body is going in from my shoulders. And then also I want to keep in mind that there's a pinch that's happening. So I just want to get a little bit of an idea of what that pinch is doing. And then we know that if we think of either the Bing method, where I'm just connecting the pelvis to the rib cage. So now that I kind of got that in, because I know there's a pinch that's here that I see clearly, I'm just going to come in lightly and get in my pelvis, get it in that iliac crest that's there. It might be too high over here, but I'm fine with that. It's a gesture for right now. So I'm thinking of that bowl. You want to think of the pelvis as a bowl, or you can think of it as a box. You can think of it as a cylinder. I'm thinking of a bowl because that's the closest thing that I see right now that resembles. So it's more so a sphere and probably a shorter sphere that's here that I'm seeing. So once I have that, I am going to go back on this side. And I just want to follow where I think the pubic symphysis is, and that's basically where the pelvis, the ends of the pelvis, the end of the pelvis. And I can also connect that center line back out. So I kind of got an idea for that and where things are at with that. Just curving it over just a little bit more. So now I can come in with possibly a cylinder, and I want to think of the negative space. So I see that there is a little bit of a gap that's in between, and then I also want to get this leg in, so I need to make sure I'm watching. I want to go a little bit below my initial line, but I want to stay within the frame. Alright, so now that I have that in, I can start with a cylinder for the leg. So guys, this cylinder, you want it to taper at the bottom. So if I wanted to turn this into a box, I could. I want to get the patella in really fast. I always draw kind of like this upside down triangle shape just to indicate where it is. I can also get like a top, bottom, and side if I need to. But I don't really need it at this moment. But it's there now. So if I wanted to turn it into a box, I already know this is the top of my patella. This is going to be the side of my femur, and I know that there's a muscle that's here that's coming up. So now I have the side, the front, and I just turned that into a box. So we can always think of that femur and what that bone is actually doing as well. You can think of a box. We know that there's a I always want to call it a knob because that's what it looks like when that bone connects in. It just looks like a knob. But basically that's some of the connection that's happening, and I'm probably a little bit too wide down here, and I'm fine with that. But we have our box here. I started with a cylinder, so you can see how I was able to like move around with those geometric forms, because you can change it in and out however you want to do it, as well as I plugged in a bone. Oh, look at that. Woohoo! I'm going for it today. All right. So now we want to get our tibia and fibia in. I tend to, at the beginning, kind of just merge them together. So I do want to get the angle. Get that angle, Andrew. The angle of our ankle, because that definitely helps. So if I wanted to come in with a cylinder, I want to taper that cylinder. So that's what I'm doing. I'm tapering it. I also want to get the right direction. Where my cylinder? My ellipse is all wrong. So now that I have that in, I normally, once I have an idea of where my fibia is, then I can get that wrench shape in. And I can start with those connections with that bone. So now I have that, and I want to connect and get the foot in. So I like to come out. I tend to make my feet, and I feel like I'm gonna pull this up just a bit so I can stay in the frame. I tend to make my feet bigger than what they should be. I like doing that. I had a professor that was just like, I'd rather make them too big than to make them too small. And to this day, I love you, Betty, for that, because I definitely continue to make big hands and big feet. Because I agree, I'd rather see big hands and big feet than to see some itty bitty small feet and that figure looks like it's going to fall over. We don't want that. No, we don't. All right, so back to what I'm doing. Another thing that you want to pay attention to is negative space. I feel like young artists tend to forget that that's a very important shape, especially if you're navigating through the figure. So I want to get as close as I can to this negative shape. So I just want to get that in and make sure I'm where I need to be. I want to think of the angles of the knee. I'm just going to draw a line over. So I'm thinking about plummet level lines as well. That's very important when you're drawing, to have that. I also kind of want to think of spacing, and what I could always do, I could always take a measurement and bring that measurement down, a head height measurement, just to get a spacing for that. But for me, I'm just going to do my best to allow my eyes to guide me through and use some of the landmarks and connections that I can think of. So I'm going to say that this, because I don't want to bring this out too far, I can bring in a cylinder for this. And I can figure out where my plantilla is, because that helps me a lot. So I do see it. I want to draw out that upside down triangle. I can also get a bit of the top of that plantilla, so I can get a little bit of that perspective of it. And then from here, I know that this is my cylinder. I also have another cylinder for that knee, so I just want to get that cylinder in. I want the cylinder to taper. We need to taper at the bottom. So once you have that tapering that's happening, you can see how I'm using my cylinders, or if I want to, I can turn this into a cube. If I can get my directions right. Get it together, hurry. Get those directions together. I don't want to erase too much, but same thing here. If I want to turn this into a cube, I definitely can. And think about the perspective as well. So this is how you want to think of construction. I'm coming in quite thick with my cubes and cylinders. I would prefer to keep them a little bit thinner, because if we're thinking about muscle and we have to apply muscle on top of this, it's one of those things where you're like, oh man, I probably shouldn't have made my construction as big or as wide as I did, because now my figure is out of proportion. So you kind of want to think about that when you are doing it. So I'm just coming in with just a little idea of where that her feet is. I'm keeping it kind of boxy. I haven't really gone in and separate any of those boxes. But you will have the pleasure of doing it in my class. Woohoo, so much fun. Yes. All right, so now that we got our rib cage in, we got our pelvis in, we got our feet in, let's move on back to the top that I just totally forgot about. So I also want to think about my eyes, and I'm like, I see that this is where this pinch, we have a stretch, we have a pinch on one side. I also see where a little bit of that rib cage is. So now I'm using that as an idea, and I need to wrap this line around this rib cage, and I'll come in and correct my gesture on that. I just want to wrap it around because I just want to make sure I have an idea for where the breast starts, and I can always draw in a little note for that. So now I'm going to kind of come back to the face, and I still feel like I need to just come in and give her a little bit more of a bigger head. So I'm very boxy when I draw to start. I'm fine with that. It's just it's something that makes a little bit more sense to me and just helps with perspective. So I'm okay with being boxy. That's just me. And I know some students aren't as boxy. I also want to get this cylinder for this neck in. So I can always go back into, because I want to get this girdle, I never knew how to pronounce that properly. But it's just helping me get in the top, bottom, and side of what's happening with that shoulder. I don't want to extend that shoulder out too far, so I'm thinking of a plumb line from here to here. And I can do the same thing here, and I have that plumb line that's there because that's just giving me an idea for where that space is. Same thing here. I'm going to draw down a plumb line, and I might can bring this out just a little bit more. I don't want to come out too much. That also can help with getting just the space, and you can always use the head method too. Oh, that's here. And one side from that pit. So now that we have like the shoulder girdle in, I want to bring it down just a little bit more. I want to make sure I'm paying attention, because really we can still wrap this around here. And I still want to make sure what I'm paying attention to. And just what's happening on one side should be happening on the other side. I'm coming in, I don't want that line to be in too much. So we see where we can have the top, the front of what's happening with these shoulders. That definitely helps. We can come in with the clavicles. So where your pit is, which is here, you're gonna have your clavicles come out. I always think of my clavicles as bicycle handles. That's just me. But it helps me at least get in the shape of the clavicles. So now that I have my clavicles in, I can always come out from here, that connection, and bring out that sternum. And that can also help me figure out where the rib cage is. I know there's a difference between the female's rib cage and the male's rib cage. Normally what I do, I just want to get the rib cage in. I don't want to think of, okay, is that the right shape? Is it angling? All in all, your muscles connect to what it needs to connect to. So I still kind of draw out that little arch that's there. So I have my shoulder girdle. I think it's a girdle. I don't know what it's called. I have my shoulder girdle in, as well as my clavicles. I have a little bit of a muscle for that sternum masseter that connects to that clavicle. And then I have my sternum in. I tend to go ahead and just draw a line. I think of the sternum as a bow tie. I don't draw the bow tie in, but I know that it's there. So now that I have that in, I could come in with some cylinders to get my arms in. Sorry, I was thinking, guys. I'm like, how far is this negative space? I think this is close. I'm fine with it being close for right now. And then I want to think of some of the ideas. So if we have our negative space here, if we move down just a bit, that's here, and we go over, we kind of get an idea where that humerus ends. We also have an idea because of where the biceps is. We can turn this into a cube. Then I could come in, which I'll probably use another cylinder, a tapered cylinder. I want to kind of travel down, what I'm going to do is travel down to where I think my patella is, and just kind of move up. And I know that her hand is about right here. So that'll help me with figuring out where that hand is placed. And with the hand, you guys, in these early stages, I still, I keep them very boxy. I do try to get in just an overall, the overall mitten shape. And sometimes I'll separate a finger or two. But at this stage, this is kind of where I need it to be. And then I can come in later and adjust when I need to. But I'm just going to keep it very simple and boxy. Alright, so now we have that, and we need to, oh, I'm going to restart that. We need to get in our other arm. So let's get that in. I'm going to use a cylinder, so you can always attach the cylinder. Always attach the cylinder, if I can get my cylinder in the right direction. You can always attach the cylinder to that shoulder girdle. Girdle, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look that up. Alright, there we go. We have our cylinder in. Normally our humerus and the ends of our rib cage tend to line up, so that's another way to not make that humerus too longer than what it should be. Just think of, okay, wherever the ends of my rib cage is, because if she breathes in, we will see it clearly. I'm saying if she's breathes in, but it's a photo. But you can see that the ends of her rib cage is about right here, and you can see where it lines up with that humerus. Once again, I can kind of get an idea what the bicep is at. So if I wanted to turn this into a cube, I could, or I can keep it as a cylinder. But I'm already there, so I'm gonna keep it there. I also want to think of negative space again. Probably should have drew that in first. So I'm saying this is here. There's a little bit that's there. And here. I'm gonna get too dark on that. So now I can possibly push this out just a bit. And I'm gonna come in and get my cylinder back in. Now that I have that, I'm moving up from my patella, and I just kind of want to get an idea for where I see that hand is. So once again, you guys know, I tend to make my hands bigger than what they should be, but I'm okay with that. Just don't want them too big. I tend to right here I'm blocking out 3 fingers at a time. I actually, and it's funny because I didn't have a professor that told me to do this. I actually had a co-worker. I used to work at Trader Joe's, and he was an illustrator, and he used to block out the 3 fingers into one, and then he would separate like right here I'm separating the pinky, and then he would separate either the pinky and the thumb, and I just thought that was so cool, and I actually stole that from him. So Gray, I doubt you'll ever see any of my videos, but yes, I did do that. So I'm keeping these the finger boxy. So woohoo. I'm gonna go in and start to try and darken some areas because I know I'm pretty light, and hopefully you guys can still see it. And I'll start with the head. But this is my way of doing it, and my way is really, it's a lot of professors' ways of doing things because I had so many great professors that taught me to figure properly, you know, and I'm thankful, so thankful for that, and I'm thankful for that education, because not a lot of people get a great education when it comes to drawing the figure, and you really have to sort out professors, or if you're studying under someone, you have to like really sort out the good ones and find them, and they'll be there to help you through the process. So it's pretty much my way. I think of construction. I'm thankful for UG at Cal State Long Beach because he really pushed structure on all of his students. And I'm so thankful for that. You know, it was a headache getting through the classes sometimes, but I'm thankful that he was hard on us and that he pushed like you want to see the structure. So I'm gonna just tighten up some areas because I just realized she has no burst. I gotta get back to that. So once again, guys, I know in class I'm always stressing, draw inside out. Even if you're coming in with just some cube lines, that's inside out. I'm maneuvering inside out in what I'm seeing and thinking. You were kind of able to see my process and how I was able to move through the figure, and I was moving through the figure just really using landmarks and connections. So let me get her breast in. We know the breast is going to connect somewhere here. I'm coming in with a little bit of a wrapping line. I also want to make sure that the breast is wrapping along. I might come in with a little sphere. I really just want to kind of get this shape in. Lighten up my line here. I ain't feeling it. I ain't feeling it. And I'm going to clean this up just a bit. I'm going to come in. Get that pinched corner that's in there. Move in just a bit. Just connecting some things. to see where I see some lines that are connecting together. Come in with a little sphere and saying, this is the calf muscle that I see. I did not get in that ankle that was there. Wanna get in. Alright. Okay. I can stop fiddling with this. You guys, once you get started, you just don't want to stop. You know what it is. It's like I just want to get it all in. I gotta do it. I gotta get it in. Coming in over here. A little bit of this curve. Yes. Alright guys, so this is what you want to do when you're going into construction and drawing the figure. So as you can see, I maneuvered through a lot, honestly. I maneuvered through different types of forms connected together. I even used just a bit, brought in a bone and a connection. This probably should be a little bit higher than when I have it. But you get an idea of how I work and how I maneuver through the figure and what I do when I'm actually drawing. And I think it's good to always see that, to see you know, how do your professor go about drawing the figure, and that's very important to pay attention to and to always see that. And another thing that's really good to pay attention to is just, as you can see, I maneuvered through holding my pencil in between my thumb, also my index finger. I had my pencil at the end and I was drawing. I also did the tripod when I wanted to get more details. So it's kind of good to see, you know, how someone works, especially how your professor works when it comes to that. Another thing I haven't really talked too much about is just line weight variation. I have a lot of different lines that are happening. They're fuzzy, they're sharp, they're lost, and I want to just talk just a little bit about that, because I noticed some of you guys have beautiful drawings, and then if you have the time, you'll go in and then you'll start outlining really dark or keep going over the same line, And you want to think about that line weight variation. You want to think about if there's a muscle, you know these lines are going to be a lot more fuzzy and not as sharp. If you have a bone, this bone is going to be sharp. This muscle that's here is going to be more fuzzy. So you want to think of soft lines for muscles, hard lines for bones. Like here with the plantella, I could come in really hard and rugged, and because I'm describing a bone. So you could definitely do that there. And that's something that you want to think about with that line weight variation, how important that is when it comes to the actual figure. So I kind of did this under 40 minutes, just 5 minutes shy. That's it. Alright guys, so I hope this helps. We will definitely tonight, we'll be practicing cylinders and our cubes, building and structure. And I will see you guys tonight. So everyone have a great night. I hope this helps. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe. And if you just like what you're seeing, go ahead and press like for my YouTubers. Alright guys, have a nice night. I'll see you in the next clip or video. Bye.